Karlyn Borysenko is as far as I can tell, the latest in right-wing grifters that have left the left in the recent years, especially now during the presidential election, because they feel like the left doesn't represent them. She first gained notoriety when she went on PragerU's video about her knitting club that got super political, and then she went to a Trump rally and found out that all the Trump supporters are good people and we should listen to them, and now she's a full-on Trump supporter. She has since had some spats with left-wing and leftist YouTubers. The most prominent one that I can think of is Vosh, who reviewed her video that she made through PragerU and absolutely tore it to pieces. She got destroyed during that segment of Vosh's stream. And what's funny is she actually did a follow-up review to that video and made a lot of weird claims about how Vosh wanted to fuck her and all this other stuff. And it seems like since then she has completely embraced the grift and completely thrown herself to the right-wing side of the aisle on just about everything, including the evil aspects of wokeness and how bad it is for everything. And this here is the video we're going to be taking a look at, where I've only seen the first like 30 seconds or so just to make sure it was, something that was worth covering, where she whines and complains, I'm assuming, about how woke the medical community is at, I guess, a summit or of some sort that they're having. So let's go ahead and take a look. Let's take a look.
The Association of American Medical Colleges serves and leads the academic medicine community to improve the health of all. Founded in 1876 and based in Washington, D.C., the AAMC is a not-for-profit association dedicated to transforming healthcare through medical education, patient care, medical research, and community collaborations. Now,
so it's kind of weird that you're focusing on the not-for-profit portion. I mean, it's a medical research institute. I'm glad, or association. So I'm glad at least some portion of our medical community or the pharmaceutical industry is in some way non-profit. Why did you focus on that particular word or set of words? Are they doing something that you don't think a nonprofit should do? Are they pocketing money? Are they making money and not reporting it? I mean, if that is what they're doing, then sure, yeah, call them out. But it looks like, at least based on the screenshot that we've got here, she's going to be covering their page. And if she's covering their page, why would they put on there that they're funneling funds into their own pockets if they're labeled as a nonprofit? Anyway, let's keep going.
one of the reasons I highlighted the not-for-profit
she's going to go into it. Okay.
aspect of that paragraph is because nonprofits get tax breaks. Mm-hmm. Big tax breaks, which essentially means that, we're not directly footing the bill for this stuff, but, they have special benefits that other types of organizations, private organizations, perhaps even private businesses, if we want to put a fine-tooth point on it, they have other benefits that private businesses just don't have. Let's learn.
Okay. All right. I think I know where she's going here. Just based on the title, medical education goes woke, and then she's focusing on the tax breaks that they're getting. I'm assuming, this is just an assumption, but I'm assuming she's going to take issue with the fact that she feels that this nonprofit organization is taking a political stance. What other organizations in this country are nonprofit and receive tax breaks or don't pay taxes at all that take very strong political stances and are very open about them? There are millions of churches across this country that take very strong political stances on things like gay marriage, transgender individuals, a woman's right to choose. Many of them speak about gun laws. Even the more extreme ones, such as the Westboro Baptist Church, take a stance against the military, and basically take issue with basic human rights given to marginalized communities. Yet they still enjoy a tax-exempt status, and at least on the right, they are not. At least on the religious right, I will say. At least on the religious right, they're not criticized for taking political stances while enjoying a tax-exempt status and not contributing financially to the society from which they benefit. Yet she, on the right, or at least a right-wing grifter, is going to take issue with a medical association being a non-profit company, corporation, association, whatever, and brushing on politics, I'm assuming. I doubt there's going to be any condemnation of any particular political group or legislation or anything of that nature. I'm just guessing, but I'm pretty sure that's not gonna happen here. So why does she take issue with it?
A little bit more about the AAMC. Our member institutions represent the full spectrum of medical education. 132 accredited U.S. and Canadian medical schools.
It's 172. It's on the page. It's right there. It's not 132, but so this is the U.S. and Canada. So it's not even just American politics that you feel they're dipping their toes into. Okay.
400 plus teaching hospitals and health systems, 70 plus academic faculty and academic societies. We serve the leaders of our member institutions as well as the following.
I just want to point out, I'm pretty conscious about my pointer. I always try to take it off the screen when it's not necessary to point something out. Please get your pointer off the screen. I understand that this is like a live stream, and she's doing essentially what I do and what other bread tubers do, where they live stream and then they cut up, little sections of their stream and upload them so they're much more bite-sized portions for the YouTube community to digest easier. Get your pointer off the screen. Come on.
Communities. 179,000 plus full-time faculty members, 140,000 plus resident physicians, and 92,000 medical students.
So it seems like a pretty robust association focused on the medical industry and the medical community. Accredited U.S. Canadian hospital medical schools, teaching hospitals and VA medical centers, and academic societies and facilities with employing a bunch of people. Okay. Why is this relevant? And
the AAMC has a conference coming up. Now, what do you anticipate during a pandemic this conference is going to be about? Could they be talking about innovative cures for COVID? Could they be talking about patient care? Could they be talking about the timeline for a vaccine and what all medical professionals can do to contribute to a successful end of this pandemic?
So I'm gonna take a swing here and say you're gonna say no, but I'm just going to guess, considering it's a medical association in the middle of a pandemic. A lot of what they're going to be talking about is going to be related to the pandemic. It's going to be related to COVID-19. There are no cures, as she tried to point out earlier. There are no cures for COVID, at least not yet. There's not even a vaccine, though they are working on that vaccine quite rapidly. But I'm sure a lot of this conference is going to be about the pandemic. However, there's more going on in the medical community than just a pandemic. It is a large portion of what's going on in the medical community. I'll give you that. But there is more going on in the medical community than just the pandemic. They can't solely focus on that when they're, I'm assuming, going to be talking about what they're wanting to focus on over the course of the next year. Perhaps the pandemic may last that long, but there's still going to be cancer patients and cancer research that's going to need to happen. There's still going to be like mundane medical issues that people are going to need to face, and they're going to need to talk about at a summit like this or a meeting of some sort like this. They're going to need to talk about those kinds of things. They can't just laser focus on one aspect, no matter how large it is and how impactful it is. They can't just laser focus on one aspect of the medical community, especially with an organization this large where they have hundreds of hospitals, schools, and educational facilities that they're going to be talking to with hundreds of thousands of people working at those facilities. They can't just focus on just the pandemic.
If you've been watching the screen, you already know. Nope, they're not talking about any of those things. They're talking about, wait for it.
So you said they're not talking about any of those things, but if we go right back to here.
End of this pandemic, the time.
That's the COVID-19 virus. That's the little CGI rendering of the COVID-19 virus right on the screen, and you're saying that they're not going to be talking about that? What?
Tribute to a successful end of this pandemic. Well, if you've been watching the screen, you already know. Nope, they're not talking about any of those things. They're talking about, wait for it, racism.
Well, considering the Black Lives Matter movement right now is huge and is being talked about in almost every single American household, whether positively or negatively, of course that's going to come up, especially since race does play a large factor in medical treatment. Be it misconceptions about the African American community in medicine specifically, or the access to care that minority groups have in relation to their financial background and how much money they have to, and the types of insurance that they have to access medical care. It seems like something they talk about since everybody's been talking about BLM for months. And I'm pretty sure they're going to be talking about the pandemic. I'm going to guarantee that right now. I guarantee you that somewhere on this website. In fact, let's look it up. AAMC. Is that what it is? Yeah, American Medical. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. November 19th. Let's take a look preemptively. Like right there's the COVID-19 virus. So there's a bunch of speakers. 2 of them are black. Maybe she might be mixed race or just more fair-skinned. But 3 of them are white people. View all topics. Topics. Institutionalized racism and academic medicine. Relevant. COVID-19. Oh, you guys can't see. Black men in medicine, blah, blah, blah. There's the institutionalized racism in medicine. COVID-19. Sexual harassment. Opioids. That's a big issue in America right now. It's the opioid crisis. COVID-19. So that's not all they're talking about. They're not just talking about racism. Why are you making it seem like that's all they're talking about?
Yeah,
Get
guys,
your cursor off the screen.
Medicine is going woke. And to be honest, listen.
Simply talking about racial issues does not make one woke. You can have a discussion about racism or sexism or homophobia or transphobia. You can have conversations about all of these topics, and they don't necessarily have to be woke. I'm certain there are a great many ways you can discuss these topics and certainly not be considered woke. Now, that being said, the idea of being woke is not bad. It's not inherently bad to be woke, as they say. Woke. Why are you trying to paint this as though it's a bad thing? I don't understand. Being woke is not automatically negative.
And this virus, no pun intended, has infected so many different communities. Many of you know, I started learning about it when it took over my knitting community. Knitting, of all places. It's actually taken over all the crafting communities right now. I actually get emails all the time. It's taken over crochet. It's taken over quilting, needlepoint, all of it sewing.
So my wife is actually into crocheting. And she visits different forums and different, YouTube videos and different communities and stuff like that. She hasn't seen the politics infecting the crafting community. I don't know what community you were a part of, Karlyn, but I'm venturing to guess that was a fucking anomaly, because crafting is a pretty benign topic and not very politically connected.
All these different communities, but I think we can all agree that my crafting communities are probably of less societal importance than medical education during a pandemic. These people are going to break me.
Inflecting your voice.
They're going to break me. It is absolutely 100% going to happen. These people are going to break me.
So I noticed, like, what you do, you repeat yourself a fuck ton for some reason. But that aside, I'm sure they're going to break you, because you're having a hard time grifting about topics like this, because I know deep down you personally probably agree with them, but you've got to work the grift. I understand that. You got to make your money. You weren't getting enough clicks on the left, so you hopped over to the right to follow that gravy train. I get that. So this probably will break you because of the cognitive dissonance going on inside of your smooth little brain.
And so what I want to do is I want to look at what is going on in this conference, and I want to talk about the types of sessions they're having at the annual conference for the Association of American Medical Colleges during a pandemic. But before we jump into that, let's do our quick order of housekeeping. Listen, guys, I'm trying to grow the channel. I know.
Okay, shilling.
Unsubscribing people from my account.
Shilling. Oh wait, is this
unsubscribing people from my account when they didn't request to be? They also.
This is more of that whining and whinging about, right-wingers are being targeted by big lefty-run organizations. It's not happening. Well, it is happening, but it's happening to everybody. Every large content creator is having people unsubscribed mysteriously and things of that nature. It's not just you. You're not special.
I actually do occasionally stick it to YouTube and make sure I hit the thumbs up, share it out. Kids that they want to send off to college to be a doctor and really don't know what they're getting into. All right, let's take a look at the program for Learn, Serve, Lead 2020 conference for the Association of American Medical Colleges. Tomorrow's doctors, tomorrow's cures. So let's see. They got their first plenary session, COVID and beyond. Where do we go from here? That's kind of
right there, the very first bullet point that she finds when she opens this pamphlet directly contradicts what she said earlier when she said that none of it was going to be about COVID and it was all going to be about, and I quote, racism. Right there, the very first thing is talking about the thing that you have been whining for the last 4 minutes, because I'm not going to count the last minute of you shilling your channel, but for the last 4 minutes that you've been complaining about them not talking about, disproven, first bullet point, first day, first event.
That's kind of predictable, kind of boring.
Please get your cursor
Yeah,
off
this
the
next
screen.
session, when my time comes, should patients have the right to determine when life should end? I actually think that's a really interesting topic. I am, side note, I'm actually a very big fan of like death with dignity and people being able to decide if they're terminal, all that stuff. That's another topic. I'm also a little bit jealous that they get to see Diane Rehm because I actually think that she's lovely.
Yeah, I don't take any issue with that. No, I am in support of doctor-assisted suicide, death with dignity, I don't disagree. And look at that, more COVID-19.
And then they've got this other panel, progress to date and preparing.
Two in one day.
for future pandemics. All right, that's pretty valid. And that's, of course, facilitated by Fauci. We're not going to talk about him.
The nationally recognized virologist that is heading the COVID-19 response and being blockaded every single step of the way by an inept administration. I'm sure they would have him talk about it, yeah. He's very close to the topic.
Style cover boy. And then we start getting into this, addressing institutionalized racism in academic medicine. Now, to be fair, there are other concurrent topics as well. Advocacy and public policy to advance diversity across the curriculum. That's kind of woke right there.
Yeah, maybe we should have perspectives that aren't old white men with reactionary views writing medical text. There's also this issue is something that should be addressed. The fact that black and brown people are kept from entering the medical field through economic barriers that they have to jump over that the average white person in this country doesn't have to. Yeah. Institutionalized racism in academic medicine. It speaks to that, and also speaks to racist ideas and debunked racist medical doctrine that's for some reason still taught today and has been taught in the past concerning black people, such as they have the anomaly that they for some reason have a higher pain tolerance than white people. So when they say they're hurting, they probably aren't, or that their skin is significantly thicker than white people. So you need to approach their medical treatment in a different form when it comes to getting underneath the skin. Things of that nature. That seems like something that's worthwhile to talk about.
Communities, oh, actually, no, hang on. I'm sorry. I was mistaken. They're actually all woke. Communities, social justice, and academic medical centers revisiting the conversations from the 2015 annual conference, from some benches to some bedsides, developing and assessing breakthrough technologies. Okay.
You just said they're all woke, and I think you're going to go ahead and correct yourself here, but you're overgeneralizing a lot. And you're jumping to conclusions when the information is right in front of your face.
That's non-woke. And then overwhelmed, how to work, love, and play when no one has time. All right, that's not woke. It's like work-life balance. Now, you can see here, they're not giving us the description for all these concurrent sessions, but I think we can safely assume that 3 choices out of the 5 choices for this 2 to 3 p.m. time slot.
3 choices out of the 5 choices of a 1-hour lecture on the first day, and this is the 3rd event on that first day of this conference, have been woke. The thing she said this entire conference was going to be about. Again, you're overgeneralizing when the information is right in front of you and jumping to conclusions.
Lot are woke. Okay, let's keep going. The plenary session. Is there a cure for racism? Throughout our country's history, racism has affected every aspect of our collective national life.
True. It has affected every single aspect of our national life. Every single one of them.
From education to opportunity, personal safety to community stability, and healthcare to housing. Events earlier this year made it all too clear that racism is systemic and individual. It still is prevalent today.
Why are you talking like this, making it all dramatic as though you're trying to imply that these things aren't absolutely fucking true? Nothing that they said there was false in any way. Why do you take issue with this? Could it possibly be perhaps because you have to keep running the grift? I'm just saying.
But there is hope. There is hope. If we can just have a conference to signal our virtue out to the medical community, there is hope that we in this conference can end systemic racism.
This doesn't scream virtue signaling to me. It seems like they're actually trying to address issues at an institution in our country, the medical community. Doesn't seem like somebody just whinging on Twitter about how these things are bad. And look at how good I am for pointing that out. They're pointing it out and trying to discuss how to fix it within the medical community. And elsewhere. But this isn't virtue signaling.
More Americans than ever stand ready to combat racism. Yet, how do we create lasting change beyond this moment? Ibram X. Kendi, PhD, and Nicole Hannah-Jones, two of the most influential voices in the conversation about racism, white privilege, and social justice, will explore where we are today and what it will take to make true progress in eliminating racial injustice and inequality. I have a member of my locals community he's doing all of us a service. You know how you guys really liked it when I summarized white fragility for you, and now I'm kind of like working my way through in defense of looting. That's another thing I'm going to be doing. But I actually have a wonderful, amazing, awesome member of my locals community who is doing How to Be an Anti-Racist, which is Ibram X. Kendi's book. He's got amazing posts in my locals, the information.
Okay, I don't care.
Ad-free to boot.
I don't care.
Summaries,
I don't care about
and
your
they're
friend.
fantastic. Dr. Kendi, a cancer survivor, history professor, and celebrated author of the best-selling book, including How to Be an Anti-Racist, is a frequent and persuasive voice on all matters related to race and equity.
So if he wrote a book about how to be an anti-racist, which is something we should all aspire to be, it seems like he would be a persuasive voice in matters related to race and equity, considering he wrote a book. He's a cancer survivor, so he has ties to the medical community. He's a doctor, ties to the medical community, and he's a history professor. So he would know about the racial inequality that goes on in this country. Seems like something he would talk about. Why is this weird to you?
Because that's what we want in medical care, don't we? We want equity. We do want
equity. So do you know what equity means, Karlyn? Equity is different than equality. Basically, and I've seen many different artistic depictions of this, is like one of the more common ones is like people are trying to look over a wood fence to see like a ball game. And there's like a super tall person that could see, an average height person that's kind of craning their neck, a medium height person that can't see over it all, and a kid. And equality is giving everybody a box to stand on, and the super tall person can see well over, the average height person can just see over, the medium height person's craning their neck, and the kid still can't see. Whereas equity is the boxes are distributed out as they are needed to make sure that everyone gets an equal outcome rather than just an equal starting point. And considering the social and economic disparities in our country, that's something we should address in the medical community. Though we wouldn't need to compensate for any of that in the medical community, just the medical community, if we had socialized healthcare.
We want people to actually just, have positive values. We want equity. The problem with equity is that equity is never about people moving up to the highest possible standard. It's always about bringing...
This is a straw man. I'm calling it right now. She's trying to say that they're trying to take people that are in a privileged position and bringing them down rather than making sure everybody gets the same outcome as the privileged person. This is a straw man. This is not true.
People that are higher to a lower standard. So what is going to happen if we have equity in medical care? Well, inevitably in I would think, and listen, I'm guessing here, so some of you might know better than me. Yeah,
you're guessing. Why are you guessing?
I'm going to guess there are areas that have pretty poor medical care. There are areas that have
like inner city areas that have poor tax funding because of the local economy. And then there are people there are areas that have higher quality medical care because they come from affluent areas where the taxes are much higher because everybody there is rich, so they can build much better medical facilities. And the fact that there are very few wealthy and affluent people as compared to people on the lower rungs of our economic system, they have to treat fewer people than they do in larger, more inner city areas. So they're able to get more one-on-one care with their doctor. They're able to get a higher class, a higher level of medical care. And those people that are more affluent are able to afford that medical care, so they don't have to wait until it becomes a life-threatening issue before they get their issue addressed, catching it early rather than people waiting for their leg to basically fall off before they decide that they need to foot the bill they can't afford and go get their diabetes seen to. That what you're getting at? Because that's a reality in many places in America. And again, socialized healthcare, free at point of service, would fix that issue.
Mediocre medical care, and there are areas that have higher medical care, or populations, or what have you.
You mean like white people?
What is going to happen if equity becomes the goal is people who have good medical care that they're happy with are going to be pulled down. Not everyone is going to come up. They're going to be pulled down. And who knows if they're going to be pulled down to the mediocre level or pulled down to the lower level. I'm sure you could also make an argument that it could also probably raise some of the mediocre, but that is.
This is an appeal to emotion that she's trying to scare people away from these ideas by saying your medical care is going to get worse so that the brown people can have the same thing as you, rather than saying, hey, we're going to take the brown people and make their medical care just as good as yours, which most people, I would assume, unless you're fucking racist, wouldn't have an issue with.
This is essentially what's going to happen if equity is the goal in medicine. And frankly, I'm not sure that mediocre should be our goal for medical care.
I would take mediocre medical care over no medical care. Until I got into my current career field, I didn't have access to medical care, with the exception of when things got bad enough, I went to the emergency room and then ignored the bill. If I had access to even mediocre medical care that was either free at point of service or reasonably affordable, that would have been much better than having none of it. I would say that moving people up to even a mediocre level of medical care would still be an improvement to our society.
That doesn't sound like a good idea to me. So basically they're just giving their bios here. I'm not going to read their bios. You can read those.
You read like 3 people's bios and now you're calling it quits. Anyway.
Those for yourself. Dr. Kendi and Hannah Jones will hold a candid discussion. I don't think these people are even capable of holding a candid discussion, if I'm honest about it, on how entrenched programs, policies, and societal mores, including in healthcare, have stood in the way of justice and equity for all people. Rude. All right, let's keep going. So then we have...
She's skipping over an interview with somebody.
We have how we all have a story to tell, the power of human connection. This is with Ann Curry, so maybe this will be woke, maybe not.
She's speculating because she can't tell based off the title that it for sure will be woke. So there's another one.
Probably there'll be some woke, but who really knows? Then we have another list of concurrent sessions. Let's see if there's any wokeness in here. The Coalition for Physicians Accountability. I have no idea what that means. Courageous
accountability within physician. What the fuck do you mean you don't know what that means? It's clear. It's obvious.
Just leadership. Challenging the status quo in academic medicine. Even money that's about dismantling systemic racism. Even money. Creating a field of inclusion in academic medicine.
Courageous leadership challenging the status quo in academic medicine. How does that signal boost wokeness to you? I can't infer that from that. Okay, creating a culture of inclusion in academic medicine, perspectives from the field.
In academic medicine, perspectives from the field. You know that's going to be woke as hell. Tomorrow's telehealth. Okay, telehealth. I have no issue with telehealth.
I like how she goes into it with their sarcastic, overdramatic voicing, and then realizes, oh shit, this isn't something I need to do that to, and then she backpedals because, again, she's overgeneralizing and making assumptions about shit that's right in front of her fucking face. This is pathetic. This is funny.
The healing power of human connection. That actually sounds okay. I have no issue with that one. Our next set, let's take a look.
So that's a bunch of shit that wasn't woke. She tried to ascribe wokeness to 2 aspects of that, so that's even more that wasn't woke.
Be it resolved, using legislation to declare racism a public health emergency.
I'd say it's a pretty fair argument to make that racism is a public health emergency in America, especially with the boiling point that we've reached in the last several months. Yeah, people are dying because of racism. Or because of things tied to racism, but go on.
Yep, that's really what we need to do right now. It's not like we need to have a pandemic. It's not like...
A shit ton of the stuff on the first day, the first 2 panels of the first day of this thing were about the pandemic. And then a couple on the second day, I believe. There's been several things about the pandemic, but there's more than just a pandemic going on in the medical community.
Like, there are a lot...
And it's right there, in front of her. Impact of COVID-19 on research. It's right there. It's right in front of you.
Other people out of...
And you clearly read this beforehand. You clearly went over this packet if you decided to make a whole segment about it. You didn't just see a pamphlet with a colorful cover and decide, this is going to be woke. I'll make a video about wokeness. You clearly read through it. It's right in front of your eyes.
Work. It's about like hundreds of thousands of small businesses have been destroyed because of the lockdowns that the Democrats insist on maintaining, and they're going to end on what day? November 4th.
Wrong. No. Yes, the left side of the political spectrum, or I guess the center, does insist on keeping the lockdown going because it's saving lives. The right is preventing that from happening. And you know what's even better? Those millions of small businesses, or thousands or whatever of small businesses that she talked about that are never going to come back or were completely destroyed, that could have been avoided. The first 2 stimulus checks, all of the money went to Wall Street. Small businesses aren't Wall Street. Had the first $5 trillion, I believe it was, of stimulus actually went to helping the average American rather than Wall Street executives, that wouldn't have happened. People could have shut their businesses down for long enough that we could have all locked down like they did in multiple other countries, the EU, Canada, all of Europe did, and now they're back open, and they didn't have a massive economic crash and a bunch of small businesses closed down because their governments provided the funds necessary. They would have been able to keep paying their employees, which meant that we wouldn't have had 30 million people suddenly on unemployment, and those businesses wouldn't have been destroyed. But instead, the administration and the Republican-controlled Senate decided to do 2 multi-trillion-dollar stimulus packages that all went to Wall Street rather than small businesses. It's the fault of the people you're grifting for, Karlyn, that these businesses are closing, not the Democrats. And I guarantee you, I will bet you every single red cent in my bank account, Karlyn, that the lockdown is not going to end on November 3rd. Very confident about that. That not everything has to do with the election. The right needs to believe it does so they can paint the Democrats and the left with this broad brush, trying to tell their base that the left is trying to kill them and kill our country and kill our economy, and that's why you got to vote Trump and blah, 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 blah. That's not what's happening. I know you got to sell the grift. You got to make that cheddar. I understand. I am judging you. So I won't say I'm not, but I am judging you. So full judgment, but that's what you're doing. You're grifting. You've got to sell it, but that's not actually what's happening.
They're going to end on November 4th. It's not as though all of those things pale in comparison to the creation of racism as a public health crisis. Of course.
We should do something about it. Just saying. People are dying.
In the ACA, what's next? Impact. Oh, that's going to be woke, by the way. That session's going to be woke. That's going to be like one of the most anti-Trump sessions of all.
The Affordable Care Act was bipartisan legislation. The Affordable Care Act was originally supposed to be essentially universal health care. But then when it hit the House and Senate, the Republicans gutted it and turned it into the dumpster fire, honestly, that it became. But it still has done wonders for millions of Americans. But it was bipartisan legislation. It just happened to be introduced by Obama. You can't assume that it's going to be woke just because it's about a policy that the people you're grifting for doesn't like.
Impact of COVID-19 on research, leadership roundtable, preparing for, identifying, and tackling challenges during uncertain times. Even money, there's going to be woke aspects to that.
How does this preparing for, identifying, and tackling challenges during uncertain times, how does that signal wokeness to you? We're going through an unprecedented pandemic that hasn't happened in the last century. Yeah, uncertain times. That does not signal wokeness to me. And then the next one's about opioids, which we have a massive opioid crisis in this country, and even the right recognizes that.
And then what about opioids? Good. I'm glad they're talking about opioids. I live in New Hampshire. That's actually a problem. Leadership plenary. Let's see. It doesn't really say what that one's about. Just
so again, jumping in with your conclusions and your assumptions.
Probably a round table of sorts. Okay. More concurrent sessions. Addressing social needs and determinants. What works, what doesn't, and what should your role be? That's woke.
How? Medicine directly affects society and society's access to it. That doesn't speak to racism at all. It's just talking about society. Karlyn, hey, Karlyn, let's get a little closer. Karlyn, are you admitting that our society is racist? Are you admitting that? Because for this little section here that you just went over about society's needs, for you to assume that that's going to be about racism, despite the fact that they didn't mention that, just goes to show that you deep down truly believe that our society is indeed racist, which just goes to prove the grift that you're running. It's like those people that post about how we need to stand up to fascism, and then the conservatives will go into the comment section and just post Trump 2020, despite the fact that Trump wasn't mentioned in the post at all, and it was strictly about fascism. It's like they're admitting it to themselves. She's just straight up admitting the grift now.
Elitism and educational inequity as barriers to diversifying the medical practice. That's woke.
True.
Herbert W. Nickens lecture, Black Lives Matter in Science, Engineering, and Medicine.
Yeah, I talked about earlier the socio and economic barriers that black people and people of color face that prevent them from pursuing higher education. I've talked about that in several videos. You can go back and watch them.
That's woke. And then more on opioids. And then let's see, it looks like our probably last set of concurrent sessions, adapting access strategies to meet patient needs in unstable times. You know that's going to be woke.
How? How does that signal wokeness to you? How? How does adapting access strategies to meet patient care needs in unstable times during a pandemic signal woke to you? We're in a pandemic. The medical community has had to diversify their ways for people to access medical care because for a long time, and still in many areas, it was unsafe to simply go to the hospital if you have something wrong with you, or go to your doctor if you needed something addressed. How does that signal woke to you? Jesus fuck.
I would bet money on it. Black men in medicine, stories behind the CV, woke.
I mean, minority populations have disproportionately suffered at the hands of the pandemic. So, I mean, yeah, they're going to talk about that.
Effective policies and practices addressing sexual harassment. Listen, wait, I was going to say maybe there's a chance that wasn't woke, and then I read the second line. Update from the AAMC Gender Equity Lab. Telehealth competencies, that's...
So it's a panel about sexual harassment. Even you, Karlyn, as a woman, have to admit that there is an issue with sexual harassment in our country. I've seen the comment sections of your videos, and on the PragerU video, and that's happened to you directly. Are you going to deny that it's a thing?
That sounds fine.
You are running this
transition to
hard.
residency rebooting after COVID-19. Hey, that actually sounds pretty good. Like, of all the sessions at a conference that is for medical students or people teaching medical students, transition to residency rebooting after COVID-19 actually sounds like a pretty good session.
What about all the other COVID-19 related ones? This list here was littered with topics pertaining to COVID-19, and you're acting like they just aren't there and the whole thing is woke. I can't be ableist and ask if you're blind. You're wearing glasses. Jesus Christ. Are you that stupid? Really? Are you being that willfully ignorant about this pamphlet that you've read about a conference during a pandemic and during a societal unrest as it pertains to racial inequality in our country? Of course, it's going to touch on both of those topics a lot, but it's touched on COVID-19 a fuck ton.
Why aren't there more like this? Why is half of this damn schedule filled with woke? Let's just see here. 1, 2, 3, 4.
She's going to count all of the things that aren't woke that she's ascribing wokeness to. So let's see wokeness here. I guess you could call gender equity woke. Sure. Black men in medicine. So 2. 3. Black Lives Matter in science. Diversity in the medical profession, I guess.
5, 6. Let's do a quick count.
We're actually at 4.
7.
No. Research, ACA. Racism is a public health emergency, so 5.
8, 9, 10, 11.
Inclusion. I'm not going to call that one woke. Not calling status quo woke.
Wait.
So we're at 5.
That's definitely 10. I'm going to bet that's 11.
So she skipped a number. So she, even with her own metrics, is at 10. She counted one twice.
12.
She scrolled over it too quickly.
I'm going to bet that's 11.
Neither of those look woke. She just saw a black woman with red hair and a black man and assumed it would be woke. Damn it.
10. I'm going to bet that's 11.
Again.
12.
Is there a cure for racism? Okay. 6.
12. 13, 14, 11. 12.
Social justice, 7. Diversity, 8. Institutionalized racism, 9.
13, 14, 15. So, at this
So 9 of them have been woke. And she counted 15 because she has to ascribe wokeness where there is none to push her grift.
conference, we have at least 15
9.
sessions
9
that are
sessions.
woke. And like, just based on eyeballing it, that seems to be probably at least half of the sessions at this conference.
Nowhere near half. Nowhere near half. We just went up the list. Nowhere near half. Even at her number, it doesn't approach half, but my number, the actual number, counting things that are woke, 9, nowhere near half of the conference is woke.
So, congratulations, folks. Medicine has gone woke. Can't you wait to go to your doctor? This is why, I'm not giving medical advice, but I'm going to be honest, this is why I subscribe to alternative medicine.
Really? Advocating for alternative medicine during a pandemic. A pandemic that you took umbrage with the fact that this entire conference wasn't unilaterally focused around. And you're encouraging and advocating for alternative medicine. What? Healing crystals? Wafting smoke around your room? Acupuncture? You got mad that this conference wasn't focused on science, and now you are blatantly pushing anti-science medicine towards your viewers. Oh my god. Oh my god. Alright, that's gonna be it for this video. If you like this video, hit the subscribe button. If you're watching on YouTube, drop a like. If you're watching on Twitch, hit the follow button. And I'll see you in the next one.